at, I don't know where I've gone back and forth on this in my head a few times. I don't know where I really stand on Bruce making the decision, and I'm sure it was his decision to make, of whether or not to conform to, the Chinese ministry's, you know, request, if you will, with a gun to your head, that conform to their will when it comes to these things. So, what are your thoughts on that now that you've had a few days to let it marinate?
Well, let me first touch on the ACDC news. I found it interesting, and you even actually put a poll out on the Facebook page about, ACDC, it's official with Axl Rose. You going? You not going? And on the last episode, we talked about, kind of where we stood on this, where you feel that it was a draw. You feel that a lot of fans would definitely want to go see it. In fact, people who may be mildly interested are now definitely going to go. And I was on the opposite of that. I'm less likely to go see AC/DC with Axl Rose than with Brian Johnson. And it seems as if AC/DC must be picking up on that same vibe, because they probably had just a ton of people bitching about the fact. And even our poll results that we did showed that a lot of people are like not interested, which I found kind of fascinating. I'm not saying it'd be bad. It's just, flip a coin for a lot of people where they wouldn't care either way. But I thought that more people would be in favor of going to see him with Axl. Looks like that's not the case. So I find it really interesting that they're offering a refund to those who feel they're getting screwed because Brian Johnson isn't going to be there. In regards to Iron Maiden changing, it's interesting because, and I don't want to get political here, but you saw what many artists here in the States have done in regards to the North Carolina law about, having a men and woman's bathroom being separated by gender, and how that's considered to be hurtful to certain communities, transgender communities, et cetera, et cetera. And you see all of these artists saying, screw North Carolina, I won't go to them. And, calling off all their concerts and et cetera, et cetera. And I just got to say, if artists like Bryan Adams are not going to come to your state because of bathroom laws, then I actually encourage every state in the United States to pass similar bathroom laws immediately, only to keep Bryan Adams out of your state. That's just my opinion. But in regards to Iron Maiden in China, this kind of has a similar theme, in which you would think a band like Iron Maiden, a band that's who's been, kind of breaking the rules for a long, long time, to essentially cater and cower to the Chinese government, I think is a very big head scratcher to me. And, I possibly get the not waving of the British flag. But the fact that you have to change the words of Power Slave to Wicker Man, to me, is just like almost laughably absurd. And again, maybe we have listeners in China. I don't know. But I will tell you that I just find it incredibly thin-skinned and almost cowardice and just a lot of paranoia from the Chinese government in regards to making sure you change two words in a song because it pisses us off. Don't say that. And I guess, whether you're from America like Biv and I are, or in any other parts of the world, I would just find it simply a shame that any country and their government would want you to change the way you perform or change the type of music you do or sing because they may not like it. I mean, you talk about an absolute just infringement on ordinary freedoms that a lot of us take for granted. And when you go to a communist country like China, that's what you get. And I'm really surprised that Iron Maiden took that stance, or lack thereof, I guess, in this instance, and essentially catered towards what the Chinese government wanted, probably because they didn't want to disappoint fans. And I get that. But how far do you take that in appeasing those who may have a problem with your message, which is laughable in regards to what they're actually having a problem with in the first place? So there's my thoughts on it.
Well, I guess the question I have is how many true fans do they have there to begin with? Now, I know that a lot of people showed up, but they showed up because it was a rock concert. It could have been anybody, I think.
No, that's true.
And the fact that it was a rock concert was, they're like, oh crap, we never get to do this. This is cool. So, to me, I think they sold out when they did it. I think that they should have done one of two things: either just said no, we won't do the concert, or the other thing they could have done is said, oh yeah, sure, yeah, we'll change the lyrics, and then gone out there and just done their show like they normally do, which would have caused an international incident, I'm sure. But there is no such thing as bad press. So,
yeah, I find it.
In fact, if anything, they would have been a bigger hero than they already are to many people.
To your point, I mean, Chinese Iron Maiden fans have heard this stuff before. So, I mean, who are you really pissing off and offending?
Yeah, I know.
Not your audience. You're pissing off and offending. I mean, come on, let's be real. If you're a diehard Iron Maiden fan in China, and I'm sure there are some, I'm guessing at one point or another you've seen a video, either on a DVD or something, in regards to Iron Maiden performing The Trooper and Bruce Dickinson running around with a Union Jack. Come on. Seriously? I mean, man, oh man. Blending politics and metal is never a good combination, and this is a great example of just an absolute lack of freedom by a particular government. And I think it's kind of a shame that Iron Maiden, I guess to use your words, but I think it's a fair description, sold out. They really did.
Yeah, and here is a good combination. Anytime you can put a 10 or a 12-year-old kid on stage playing metal, that's a good combination right there. And so I don't know if you saw this story a few weeks back. We didn't really talk about it here on the show, but a few weeks ago there was a young kid, 10, 12 years old, on one of those, Australia's Got Talent or something to that effect, where I guess Kelly Osbourne was a guest judge. And the kid goes out there and just wails on Crazy Train on guitar and sings it, and just absolutely wowed the audience. And it is a pretty neat clip. Well, Kelly Osbourne made arrangements for Ozzy to meet this kid, and it was just one of those really cool, rock moments where he knew who Ozzy was, but he got to meet some other people from Black Sabbath.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's just one of those, just wow. That's what, no matter where we are in the world, that's what brings people together.
Yeah, and that's nice segue there from what we were just talking about, Biff. Well done. Because you're right. Those are the, that's the, and what's been great about this show, and let's just tie this in back together. Later on in the program, we're going to have Mark Kennedy from Damnation's Days in Australia. Okay? It's just amazing that we've talked to so many people around the world already in the 7 episodes we've done. And like we said in the first episode, it's a universal language that no matter where you are in the world, if you're a metalhead, you're a metalhead. And it's great to see that, in Australia, you have a 12-year-old kid playing Crazy Train. He gets to meet Ozzy and Black Sabbath. I mean, how freaking awesome is that?
Yeah, it is. That's incredibly cool. Just one of those cool kind of touching moments. But that's it for the news.
No. We're not done. Well, we are not done. We have some other breaking news that I wanted to share with a lot of folks here. And I know that, just a week or so ago, Prince passed away. Not necessarily metal news by any means, but a hell of a guitar player and a hell of an artist. And whether you like him or not, was definitely a game changer for the 70s and 80s rock, funk, whatever you want to call that, pop. He was all over the place. And but you know how they say it comes in threes, or, people sadly die in patterns? First we lose Prince, and then we lost the mother today of Tupac Shakur. Since we're talking metal and all, I figured I'd mention that. Afeni Shakur died today at the age of 69 years old.
What a shame.
It is. It's really sad. And it's sad that she's dead today, and yet her son is still alive. I mean, at least according to Facebook, that's true. You believe that, right, Biff?
Well, if it's on Facebook, it must be true.
It's absolutely true.
I mean, we all know that.
Well, that's the news in metal. Now, we got 4 really cool album reviews to get into. So without any further ado, let's do some metal reviews, Biv. You ready?
Let's do it.
It's time for new metal album reviews.
All right, that was Ghost of Graceland by Treat. Now, Treat is a band that is, while we are according to metal, sometimes we do walk a little bit on the hard rock or even AOR side of things. And this is one of those acts that definitely falls into that hard rock kind of category. Now, in 2010, their only other CD came out, Coup de Grace, which is a phenomenal CD, and that's why I was so very, very excited for this CD to come out. It's been 6 years in the making. So with that said, I certainly have my opinions, but before I divulge what I think, Jason, I know you're kind of fairly new to Treat, so I'm going to let you go first. First of all, have you heard Coup de Grace?
I have. Actually, let me give you a little background. Let me surprise you a little bit, Biv.
Oh, please.
I actually first heard of Treat when In Flames did a cover of World of Promises. And that was off their Clayman album, and I remember hearing it. It was a cover. It was kind of a bonus track. And I was like, that's kind of cool. So I actually went back and listened to the original, which is way different, but still good. And, just kind of forgot about Treat. And, well, makes sense because they were on a hiatus for a long, long time. Well, come 2010, they come out with Coup de Grace. Really, really good album. And, at the time in 2010, one of the higher rated albums among a lot of like hard rock and heavy metal websites that year. I mean, it was album of the year material for a lot of people. And so now here we are in 2016. Ghost of Graceland is out. And I'll tell you what, I was excited to hear this album, and there's a couple of things that really stand out to me in no particular order here. First of all, it's super catchy. This is the kind of stuff, and I think I've said this before on the show, but I'll say it again. My wife does not share my musical interests. Let's put it that way. So a lot of times we will, argue over what we're going to listen to in the car here or there. And a lot of times I'll try to find a compromise on something that I like, but something that she would at least tolerate. And Treat is a great example of the kind of band that if I put that on, my wife would go, okay, I could dig this. Has a lot of, Goddard sound to me. Very kind of, you could tell it's 2000 and 2016 that we're making this music in, but that definite 80s catchy vibe that was the stuff they did in the 80s has that same feel as it does in 2016, but yet you could tell it's absolutely new material that doesn't sound dated, but yet it does. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess you just have to listen to the album and know what I'm getting. This is not something that comes, that you could... For example, a couple episodes ago, we did a review for Metal Church, and Metal Church has a handful of tracks on that album that may as well have been recorded in the 80s, and you would not think otherwise. Yeah, I could have told you that this was old material from Metal Church, and had you not heard it, you'd be like, oh, okay. This is not the case with Treat, that even though it has that 80s sound to it, and that really catchy hard rock feel, it still sounds very modern, but yet very 80s. And that may not make any sense. Maybe it makes sense to you, Biv. But a couple tracks that stand out to me. Ghost of Graceland's really good. I Don't Miss the Misery is one of my favorite songs on the album. Better the Devil You Know. Endangered Inferno, by the way, I really, really like. So there's 5 tracks I just listed that I really, really dig. And again, this is music that you could turn on, and if you have friends that aren't necessarily metalheads, but they're into rock, they're going to like this stuff. I will say that. Now, there's a couple of misses on the album. Alien